All right, Fiberistas. Hey, welcome to the live cast. I'm Stacy Budge Camison with UrbanGypZ.com, and welcome. I'm glad you guys are here. So today, I'm going to talk about getting clear on your art style. And the reason why I'm talking about this today is this past week, I photographed a bunch of my work. Usually what I do is, because it takes a while to do some weavings, especially if you're also doing classes and live casts in between. But what I tend to do is kind of wait and photograph everything at once and kind of batch it, so I'm not like constantly photographing, because actually I really am not a big fan of photographing my work. I know that's terrible to say, but anyway, so I did a big photo shoot for my work, and I've noticed that my style has changed a little bit. And I wanted to talk about kind of staying true to your style and focusing, because I don't think it's changed to the point to where like you're not going to recognize my work. It's just there's some subtle changes. And also too, I've noticed in the Fiber Art Collective, it's really interesting because that Fiber Art Collective has been going for a couple of years now. And there are a lot of people who post regularly, and usually before I can even see who's posted, I'm starting to recognize people's work, which I find just thrilling. It's really exciting to me. Anyway, so hi to Karen and TJ. Yay! Thanks for joining us. Anyway, all right, so, and Patty. Hey, Patty. All right. So, when I talk about art style, kind of what I mean is, like, as you're doing your work, it's kind of what shakes out as your visual language. It's kind of, when you start to develop a style, that's kind of what you're putting out into the world that represents, you expressing yourself visually. And that can be anything. It can be from painting, it can be from your knitting, it can be all kinds of stuff. All right. And so I want to talk about how you shake out your style, because sometimes people feel like, especially like with knitting, people don't really think of their knitting as art. But if you find that you're kind of gravitating towards like similar type of stuff, you're following your heart when you make art. And as you follow your heart, that's what's going to shake out as part of your style. All right. So when you keep working from your heart, a lot of times you might find that you kind of repeat yourself a little bit, and that's okay. Usually as you're repeating yourself, that's what's kind of shaking out your style. So like, for instance, say like you go into a gallery and you'll see, they'll have artwork, a bunch of artwork from the same artist. Usually if you look at the artwork from that one artist, their artwork is very similar. And that's because it's kind of their style. I mean, it's one of those things that, when you find something and a technique that kind of resonates with you, you kind of tend to want to do it more and more and more. And there'll be subtle differences, with every piece that you do. But for the most part, if you keep following your heart and making more of what's working, then that's what's going to shake out as your style. And you'll notice that, like I said, when you go into any kind of art gallery, if you look at some of the masters, like Picasso. I mean, I know he had a bunch of different subject matters, but for the most part, he had a style. I mean, a lot of times you can probably pick out his work, and same with like Salvador Dali or Gauguin. You can pick out a definite style, and sometimes it's really worthwhile if you dive into a certain piece of art completely. Like I'm going to show you, let me show you this. Okay, so lately, here's a couple of pieces that I've been working on. Now these are those dresses I've been talking about. I had to get some fiber off the loom, so I've been working. Here's one of the dresses. I don't know if I think it's going to go this way, where this is at the top, to go onto this figure, I believe. So up at the top. And then I have this piece here, which is, another one of those dresses that's a little longer. But this is a piece that I did very recently when I went and did a Sayori workshop in a gallery. But you can see a similarity, right? Because there's those kind of natural colors, the off-white, and lots of texture. And even this piece, and this is one of those art yarn warps. So you can see I'm kind of going back to a more natural color, but that's not to say it doesn't. I feel like these still match up with this stuff, when I was working a little more colorfully. And I think it's the way that I treat the textures. And with the hand spun, there's just some similarities in my work. Now here's a piece that's kind of almost a transition piece. And you see I'm starting to work on a little more natural color and a little more mindful about the placement of that color. All right, so it's kind of, your work's going to evolve as you continue to follow your heart, but for the most part, if you keep working with what's working, even though, people might come back and say, oh, you're just repeating the same thing. No, you're not. You're kind of diving more deeply into your work. And it's worthwhile to completely explore ideas. So don't be afraid to really explore an idea fully, because then that's going to lead to subtle differences. That's also going to lead to something that kind of represents what your style is and who you are and what your brand is. Okay, so in the last few years, I totally deviated and started to do some ceramics, right? So this is one of my ceramic pieces, and you can tell I'm not very great at ceramics. It attached itself to, I overglazed and it attached it to the tile, so I have to make the art center a new tile. But I mean, this is something I just do for me. This is not artwork that I'm going to put for sale, because that's a whole nother ball of wax and a whole nother business. But I did start to, I know I've shown you guys this piece, find ways to utilize, this other technique that I love, with the fiber art. And I still think that this is very similar to the wraps and stuff that I make, be it because I'm using similar colors, I'm using my hand dyes, I kind of tend to gravitate towards similar colors. And I guess even in the glazes, match up, and even the body, the clay body, is matching up with my work. So it's kind of shaking out to the same type of style. Also, here's another piece. Oh, there's more down there. Here's another piece that I did. I did this one live. You can see video of me working on this, a couple of videos where I worked on this piece. But I mean, even so, this still has a similar feel to this, be it because of the colors, be it because of the textures, be it because I'm using hand spun, be it because it's kind of a wild weaving. It's me exploring that same style over and over again. So, here's some other things. I also started making these, and I'm going to hang my weaving off of this. I mean, not the wraps, but, shorter pieces. So I've got a couple of these. And I think these are just another texture that will work with my weaving. Anyway, and so these will be home deck kind of wall pieces. All right, so if you're kind of still feel like you're all over the place when you're working with your style, when you're starting to work and you feel like you're not nailing it down. I mean, a lot of times it's just intuitive. I mean, if you follow what really feels good in your heart, if you look at it and you're thinking, yes, this is it. This feels like it's me. I love this. I feel that I can stand up and show this and say, this is my work. Then great. Go on. I mean, you're there. You've got it, from that intuitive place. But sometimes that doesn't always come. And sometimes you might need a way to figure out how to pull that out a little more. And here's what I would suggest you do. It's kind of the same technique that you use if you're trying to come up with a brand for a business. And I know this is kind of weird because dealing with art and dealing with business feels like it's two totally separate things, and it's really not. So, because your art style really is kind of a lot like finding your own brand. So what I would do is, as you look at your work that you've done, maybe come up with 5 or 10 words that would describe it. And by describe it, I don't even necessarily mean like, oh, this is an off-white piece with a lot of locks. And no, I mean, even if you come up with a word that might describe this as, rustic or bohemian or rustic bohemian or, throwback like to the 70s or whatever, or, textural. I mean, come up with some words that maybe describes what this, what you think of when you look at some of the pieces that you really love. And maybe come up with some words that would describe how you want your work to feel. Like, do you want it to feel calm, or do you want it to feel relaxing, or do you want it to feel like whimsy, or just come up with some words and just pick 5 or 10 words that just kind of resonate, and hold on to those words. Put them somewhere where you can see it in your studio. And as you work, if you feel that your piece is kind of going off the rails a little bit, then come back to those 5 or 10 words and say, what can I do to have this piece have a little more whimsy or bohemian, or whatever one of your 5 to 10 words are. And that will help kind of bring it all back into that span of where you are in your work. So, but I think the biggest part when you're trying to come up with your style is make sure it resonates here. Because I know a lot of times people, when they go into artwork, they're thinking in terms of their audience before they think in terms of what's coming from your heart. But what's coming from your heart is going to attract your right audience. So start there. Start with making work that you are just really proud of, because people will find it. There's a bunch of people out there, and they're going to find you. They're going to find you if you're speaking from your heart. So, and I say speaking from your heart, I mean through your visual language. So I hope that makes sense. Anyway, I'm going to check and see if there's any questions. I find that I'm a bit too shy or nervous to really put my stuff out there. That's okay, Sandy. I get it. I think if you keep working, and really developing your style and building work that you love, it'll get out there. And if you need a safe place to put it, bring it into the Fiber Art Collective. Because I have like a total no snark rule with the Fiber Art Collective. If anybody starts to really snark, if they continue to do that, we shut them down. Because it's that's one thing is especially if you're starting out in art, you need to be encouraged and fostered some, good encouragement, and feel that it's safe to show your work. So you might already be in there anyway. But yeah, just share it if you want to, or send it on and in an email, and I'll give you encouragement. And if you want criticism, I'll give you some kind, constructive criticism. But usually I let that go, because everybody has their own, path, and I really think that many different voices and many different styles are a wonderful thing. I agree. It's important to make art from your heart. Yes, definitely, right? I mean, I think sometimes, and I saw this especially like living in a really expensive artsy tourist town like Asheville. I felt sometimes the artists, excuse me, let me get something to drink. I still have that cough. Sometimes the artists would be more worried about making rent and trying to please the tourists. And I get it, that's, making studio rent is a real thing, but and also too, if you're working on something that's not necessarily tourist friendly, you might not get the love from some of the potential buyers that are coming through your studio. But making work from your heart, no matter what that is, I think, especially with the internet, it's so much easier to find like that grand scale audience. It really is. Hi, do you plan your work on paper beforehand? I love your stuff. It's so inspirational. Sometimes I plan my work on paper. Sometimes, I have, I'm a big advocate for art journal sketchbook stuff. You know what? Let me see if I have if I can't put my hands on my latest sketchbook in like 2 seconds, then I'm going to skip it and post a link. There is some videos where I show some of my work, and sometimes I work in my art journal, not necessarily specifically planning out a piece overall, but I'll plan out like just a general feeling. So where'd the name UrbanGypZ come from? That's a funny story. The name UrbanGypZ. Okay, so I studied Middle Eastern dance about 20 years ago, when I was living in Birmingham, Alabama. And when I first moved to Asheville, I started blogging because I had just learned to knit, and I just needed a name for a blog really quick, so I picked UrbanGypZ because it was kind of tied to the Middle Eastern dance thing. And then my blog became a knitting blog, and then it just kind of stuck. So anyway, that's where that came from. It's a really bizarre story. Anyway, I'm going to post a link too in the show notes. There's an interview I did for Spin Artist that has a little more detail and a picture of me dancing with a Middle Eastern dance troupe. Anyway, all right. And I'm going to post, I don't see my sketchbook anywhere close by, but I'm going to post in the show notes a picture of that. Agree. If it's not organically coming from you, it will show the viewer as a strange, or it won't connect. It's like trying handwriting and not in a general way. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's true. I mean, and you can always kind of feel if you're it's such a hard thing, because you want to, as an artist, you're kind of performing for an audience, but at the same time, you still have to come back and be true to your heart. So it's, yeah. Anyway, all right. So I wanted to make 2 announcements. The first one is this Sunday, I'm going to be doing a spin-along online with Christiane Knight of Three Ravens, and we're going to do it on Facebook. We still haven't worked out all the technical things, but somehow she and I are going to do a live cast on Facebook, and we're going to be spinning. It's going to be on Easter Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And I'll put more details on the UrbanGypZ page. So keep an eye out for that. But we're going to be doing some kind of spin along. I know it's Easter Sunday, and you guys might be doing like family or church or whatever things. But for those of you who aren't, then join us on the spin along. Like I said, it's going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It's going to be somehow on Facebook. We don't know exactly what. We've been talking about trying to do something together for months. And this is it. We're just jumping in feet first and still hammering out details. But it's going to happen, and I'm going to post more about it. Also, don't forget, registration is open for the Weaving with Art Yarns class. That class goes live a week from today, and it's going to be awesome. You guys are going to love it, because all that hand spun yarn that you guys love, that you have in your petting stash that you're afraid to do anything with, this is what you can do with it, and it's going to show it off wonderfully, and it's going to still look like your beautiful yarn, and it's going to be awesome. So that class, the registration's live. There's a link already in the description of this video, and I believe it's already in the show notes. If not, it'll definitely put that in the show notes. So, all right, I'm going to check and see if there's any other questions. Howdy from Marin. Hi, Marin. From Marin. Deb's Bees. Is it Deb? Or are you Marin? Is Marin where you're from, or is that your name? Hi, whoever. Hi, if that's your name, Marin, or if you're if you're watching from Marin. All right. So connect, UrbanGypZ. I'm going to put a link to my sketchbook. Yeah, because sometimes I do plan it out and sometimes I don't. And when I do the intuitive weaving, to be honest, I don't really plan that out because I just kind of go with inspirations in the moment. But I think if I kind of want to make a piece, like when I did the dresses for this piece, I sketched this out first, and I sketched some ideas for the dresses too, and the sketches did deviate a little bit from what the actual turned out to be, but for the most part something like that I did sketch out. Anyway, all right, and I think that's it. So if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to sign off. Again, be sure to keep an eye on the Facebook, on my Facebook page, UrbanGypZ Facebook page, and I'll post some information about that spin along that's going to happen on Easter. And be sure to check out the Weaving with Art Yarn Warps. Also, right now I have a coupon code. If you register and use the coupon code presale, PRESALE, when you sign up for that Art Warps class, you get 20% off the price, and that's good until next Tuesday. Because once the class goes live, then it'll be full price. But if you pre-register and use the code presale, PRESALE, you'll get 20% off. All right, if that's it, then I am going to sign off. Thanks for joining, and again, check out the show notes. I'm going to have all the things we talked about in the show notes. So, talk to you later. Bye.